What's going on, second geners? So I just have got the door on the car with the new rebuilt hinges. And guys, on this video, we're going to take an old wore out hinge, rebuild it, and make it look new again. Stay tuned. Okay guys, we're down here in the shop area, and I have the parts of the hinges that receive the bushings here on the workbench. And last week I had went and blasted all of these and had them ready for paint, and it's getting ready to take them up to the garage to actually spray the epoxy primer. But I decided to test these holes here once they were blasted and everything was cleaned away from them, just to see how our bushings fit in these holes. What I actually thought was a really good rebuildable set turned out to be kind of questionable, because there was evidence of some wear on the holes in the hinges themselves. So when I actually tested the bushing in the hole, it actually went in pretty easy. I don't know if the camera can pick this up because it's through the hole there. You can see in this edge here around the bushing that is actually worn. And like I said guys, it's not by much. I've got a really good still picture that I'm going to put in the video right here, that you can see it a little bit better than what I can get in this footage. Our regular bushings here are right at 420 thousandths. And if I take my dial calipers, put in this hole here, and just kind of moving around, I'm seeing 414 thousandths, which would be good. Right there's 425 thousandths. So I was kind of bummed out about it. I thought, man, what am I going to do? I thought I could look for a set of replacements, but you know, these cars, most of the ones that you would find are basically in the same shape of the ones that you probably have, if not worse. And then it's a matter of getting them in here, getting them disassembled, getting them blasted so you can actually see what you have. And you know, that's a gamble within itself. We can take a kit like this 38378 that has the oversized bushings, and we could drill these out and get basically new holes with the oversized bushing. These bushings here are 490 thousandths. They're actually the same size as these without the splines, or I could weld the holes up and re-drill them. So then I was talking to Kevin about it, and I was telling him what I had run into, and he recommended actually bonding the bushings into the hinge themselves, and he recommended this Loctite 680. And as far as the prep goes to use that, they have a Loctite 7471. Doing some reading though with this, says it's capable of filling gaps up to 15 thousandths. So I thought that was pretty good, and that will definitely fit the bill for what we're doing here. So guys, the next order of business I believe in putting these back together is actually installing the detent. I've actually done this one first just to get some experience with it, and I gotta tell you, it takes a lot of force to get the detent back into the hinges. And I'll show you the setup on that. I tried a few different things and finally got it to work, and we're going to do this next one on camera. So on the form, the guys mounted a large C-clamp in a vise, and they came in and actually pressed theirs in that way. And this particular C-clamp that I have, it actually didn't work well for me. You'll notice here on the end, this piece is kind of loose, and once I started putting tension on it, it would want to move and then it would just pop out. Something else, I really couldn't get enough force on this slip handle. I believe if you had a larger one that you could put a wrench on out here and then crank it down, I believe it would work a lot better. But this one didn't work for me. I'll show you what did. The first thing I'm going to do is take some grease, put down in this hole here, and I'm going to put it on the splines of our pin. This detent roller has two different sides, and looking at the other one, this was actually toward the hinge, and this was the pin side that I ground down, and it's very similar to our replacement. So the way I'm going to install this is the pin will come through on that side, and then the larger part of the inner bushing will ride on the pin, and that is pretty much the way the original one was. Next, I'm going to start this by hand with a hammer, and this is important because you got to get it to start straight. The first one I did, I really didn't get it started straight, and I had to back it out. Something else that I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple pieces of scrap metal, and I'm going to put in between our hinge. So that's what that looks like. Like I said, we're going to go ahead and start our detent roller. So we have it started here, and like I said, it takes a lot of force to start that and then to actually drive it home. Now we're going to go ahead and go on up to the garage and use the press that's up there. I finally got it situated to where I could actually press this pin in. There's a word of caution about this. There's kind of a happy spot that you'll want to stop at. This thing doesn't roll freely on its own, but I can turn it by hand, and there's just a little play in there, not much at all. But you can see I can turn it by hand. And you know, you might want to do these one at a time, that way you've got a reference. I happen to have an extra hinge here, and it's about the same as the one that I pressed in off camera. And once we go up there and press this in, I'll be stopping and periodically checking it, because one thing that I don't want to do is go too far. Alright guys, this is a little awkward because just the shape of the hinge itself. But what I wind up doing, you've got this part of the detent roller that's been stamped in. What I wind up doing is putting an old socket on top of that, and then we'll drive it home just like that. We got this one pressed in. Just barely got a little bit of play, not much at all. I don't know if you can see that on camera. It rolls really good. It doesn't free roll, but if you take your hand, it will roll by hand. But like I said, it's tight enough on there that it won't free roll. So the next order of business is to get them cleaned back up. I'm going to tape this detent roller up. I've got some marks here that I've already started to file out that the socket put on the hinge. It probably would be a good idea to put a little piece of either some tape or maybe even a piece of rubber down to keep that from marring that up. So I've got the hinges out of the blast cabinet, and I've re-blasted this area right here where the bushings are just to clean them up. I've also taken some wax and grease remover and cleaned the metal really good so there's no contamination on the metal. I've got the PDF pulled up for the Loctite 7471. What we're going to do is go ahead and apply the primer to both surfaces, the bushing and the hinge themselves, and from there we've got up to 7 days to bond our pieces together. It just says that this stuff has to be good and dry, so probably what I'll do is apply this tonight, and then we'll come back tomorrow, actually bond the pieces together, and from there I think it's 24 more hours until it's cured. So I didn't realize how thick this stuff was going to be, but it does look like it's almost in a gel type of form. You can see just how thick it is. So that's going to help get it on both of the mating surfaces. Lightly sanded the paint off of the bushings just so it doesn't flake off during the wear process. And let's get started putting these together. So the factory staked the pins down to keep them from backing out of the hinges. I was actually going to try to replicate that now, and I got to thinking about it and I thought, well, what if I have to take it back apart? And decided just to go ahead and put a push clip on there for now, and that way I wouldn't have to grind on the pins if I want to pull them back apart. Guys, final thoughts on rebuilding these hinges for these cars. I think it's a 50-50 chance that they're rebuildable. These doors are stupid heavy, and if the car's been looked after and well maintained, then you got a pretty good shot at it. However, most of these cars were not treated well. And my advice would be not to spend any money on any rebuild kits or anything until you've already disassembled the hinge, blasted it, and checked the holes for wear. If they're good at that point, then by all means proceed. But if they're not, you're probably going to be better off with a set of reproduction hinges. The reproduction hinges do seem to have good reviews, and I wouldn't be afraid to put a set on this car. Guys, with all that said, if you like detailed content on automotive restoration, please consider subscribing. I hope you enjoyed the video. Appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll catch you next time.